Hey guys, welcome back to Chaos Zero Nightmare. In today's video, we've got Kozmic Plays Gotcha back on the channel. He was on one of the early, I think the first podcast that we did. I saw one of his videos where he was talking about the selector. I did my selector talking about my thoughts, but he brought in another aspect to it, which was a vulnerable debuffer as an option. And so I just wanted to get him on and just have a general conversation about the selector options, our general thoughts, our thoughts around different characters and the balance of the game currently, and all those aspects, because when I see other perspectives besides my own, I want to share those perspectives so you guys can make your own decision as best you can. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say that I think free-to-plays, if you have not spent gems on standard banner pools, you're probably, I want to say, unless they give us a good influx of summons somewhere else, maybe a month or more away. I'm at 288, but I saved 30 pools on the beginner banner. So that's just a bit of a perspective where if you want to boost it up, you can use gems, but if not, it is going to take you a little bit longer. So you do have time to wait and make your decision. But that was a long intro. Kozmic, how are you, dude? Welcome back to the channel.
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me back. And yeah, excited to talk about some damage numbers here and kind of getting into my thoughts around vulnerable and a lot of other fun balancing stuff we were just talking about before getting the recording started.
Yeah. So I think, like, in general, when we talk about the selector, I think Veronica is one that universally, I don't think anyone's got anything against the suggestion of Veronica. Would you agree with that? I just think she is so damn powerful in the current state of the game.
I think it's very fair, right? We're all just trying to get better draw engines to maximize the amount of damage we can put out turn after turn, and she's currently the best in game at that. And then the ballista is just randomly critting for like 2k, 3k on maybe like an off turn, or do you just need the extra AoE damage from giant ballista? She just does everything except for providing a good buff, which you can technically get if you get lucky on divine epiphany. So it's like, where do you value if I spend 100 hours grinding the save data, right? I could have the perfect Veronica that covers all possible angles. Now, it's not going to be realistic for everybody, so she does have that one drawback, but in theory, it's technically not even there because you can high roll the epiphany. So she's still definitely my number one pick overall.
Yeah, and even though, like, she doesn't have, like, damage amplification per se, she does bring the extra damage, which helps, but it doesn't have the same ceiling that you're going to get through, just having raw damage amplification. I guess the other thing that she doesn't bring is AP generation. However, when we look to the builds you can get with her, she's pretty AP efficient. You dump your 3 upgrade cards, and then what I'm actually going for at the moment, I'm trying to get a quad 0-cost Repose deck with a ideally 0-cost Kowalski Divine, and then a Confiscation, and that would pretty much do me. Then you've got like 10 to 12 cards worth of draw power, and 0 cost across the board. So, like, when you look at what you can build with her, you can build super AP efficient decks where after your first round of getting rid of those upgrade cards, you're essentially just allowing everyone to get all their cards, and then you can have some other AP efficiencies. We have divines with AP and stuff like that. So I think in general, the fact that you've got 2 draw 2 cards in your kit, that one of them requires a divine to become 0, but one of them is like this Repose being baseline, and it's just draw 2 for 0. It's kind of crazy. So, and that's like, it's so efficient on your points as well and everything like that. So in general, I just think, yeah, she's a safe bet for anyone if you're looking for something. Just the draw engine is really safe. Now, if we go over back to the selector here and take a look at our other options, this is where I said, and this is what my decision still on my account currently, actually it's probably better if I go over to Agent Collection and we weigh this up. So this is what I am missing. So my personal preference is I still want a Khalipe. I still really like the idea of Khalipe. I love her value in Chaos, but Mei Lin is obviously the other one I'm choosing between. And there's no way I am going to do this. Even if I had my 300, I would not be doing it until I see what this new boss mode entails. How important leaderboards are, whether leaderboards are more just flex value and you can get all the rewards from doing X damage. Because at the moment, I don't know about you, but I still feel like Mei Lin is probably going to be the highest damage ceiling character, especially when we look to something like longer term fights where we do see a lot of cool highlights. I've seen some crazy Luke ones. One of the people in my Discord had a level 40 Luke. It was E5, but a level 40 Luke one-shotting the crab boss on 9 debuffs. But, a lot of that stuff you are relying on retrieve cards where that after the first turn that's gone. Maybe you're running some exhaust draw power cards through, things like your Ray or your Beryl. So some of those strategies won't have the longevity to keep cycling through, but I think Mei Lin's capacity to be able to just cycle through, do her free combo essentially. The fact that she wants her basics means you got so much save data value spare. You can dupe this thing. You get 4 copies of this thing ideally, if you want to get those basics back to hand, and then you're just basically good to go and go ahead and slap for a massive finisher. And as we spoke about Veronica, when you got that much draw power, you just have such a high damage ceiling cap. So for me, I think wait until we see this boss, but I do think Mei Lin could be one of the top options just based on raw damage numbers. What's your general thoughts around that and her?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree in that case. It's hard to imagine a world with just how the scaling works on the Rising Dragon Kick, whatever the full name of it is now again, because you loop through your deck so efficiently. And, the really important consideration that you had also hit on is that we need to consider combatants that have a 1 deck cycle value versus how strong are they still after that 2nd cycle, 3rd cycle, 4th cycle, because we know that the boss coming up is going to be a multi-cycle turn for each team. So when you have somebody like Mei Lin, who, let's just say in a perfect world, can go through her entire deck every single time, do this 20 card combo, and then have that Rising Dragon Kick at the end that hits for 45k, that doesn't lose any cards or lose any power, we have that as one comparison. Or in the case of Luke, or as a lot of people are playing today, you have a Beryl who has all the greedy, guilty pleasures. You copy that 4 times. Those all get exhausted. So your first turn might be super strong, and you do this full big combo, and then you get like 50k damage. Let's just throw a number onto it, right? You're like, oh, but my first turn was so much stronger than what Mei Lin can do. But then what is your second turn? What is your third turn? And that's where you start to see a lot of the drop-off that happens, which is so evident in the case of Luke, who loses out on the retrieve. Khalipe also has some of her key cards that have retrieve on them as well. And so when Mei Lin doesn't have, at least for what we can tell right now, doesn't have any real drawback, it's very hard to make a comparable style to that. And the one I know a lot of people are also excited about, that has been seeing a lot of play, that goes infinite, and not complete infinite, but pseudo infinite, is the Tressa with the triple healing upgrade into the Cassius upgrade that heals you when you complete a quest. However, that then relies on you to have triple shadow reload. You have to get the right quest. You have to have like all these things line up, where Mei Lin just draws through the deck naturally and says, hey, here's my 1 attack. There's no penalty on it. It doesn't exhaust or anything like that. And you're good to go. So on one hand, I really love that the devs gave us a way to have such insane combos, really cool damage potentials. But now when we're presented in a week and a half that a boss is going to come up and say, hey, the leaderboards are all going to be around what these characters can do. And my worry is that it's going to outshine future combatants, where now we have to be in this insane power creep cycle of making sure that everyone feels as cool and as flashy as the Mei Lin combos, as the Tressas. So I love what Mei Lin can do, and I definitely think it is going to be the go-to for the upcoming event, but I really hope they find a way to either balance it with gears and neutrals, or find a way to encourage other deck building opportunities that maybe the boss has a debuff that you have to play around, right? However they balance it, that's the devs' topic to worry about, I would say, in the future. But Mei Lin is definitely going to be the queen of this first boss round, 100%.
Yeah. And so, like I mentioned, I still want to get myself the Khalipe. And I know like a lot of people are shifting away from the Khalipe idea, but this is the problem that I came up to. Because when I saw your video, I thought it was really interesting, which we'll talk about vulnerable application in a minute. But after I watched that, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe Khalipe, because like my option has always been Khalipe, Mei Lin. It depends how much I need Mei Lin for the damage in the bossing in terms of rewards, whether like your rank gives you rewards or whether it doesn't. That's what I'm waiting to see. But for me, the thing is, Khalipe Mika is just what I like from what I've played on other people's accounts. And whenever anyone's doing high difficulty stuff, it was like when Yuki first came out, people were like, oh no, Yuki's fine. I'm like, what are you running her in? It's like Khalipe Mika. And it's like, it doesn't even synergize. It's just strong because of those two. And what it got me thinking was, what am I actually getting the unit for? Because when I think about it, like we have the current crab boss, yeah? Like that's like we have that and Dimensional Twilight. That's our current end game. The problem is you do those once and you don't even look at them again. So if I'm pulling a character for one of these modes for their built deck, and then I'm going to build a deck and never use that character because they're annoying to go through chaos, it's like I got into this like cycle of, well, what am I actually getting a character for? Because like, I don't know if you're in the same boat. I will grind chaos, trying to get the perfect build, get a build I am super happy with. And then I'll just go back to grinding chaos, trying to upgrade that build or do it on someone else. So that's where I'm still like, it depends. And like I said, this is why you definitely want to wait for this boss. What's the value? And so if I can use Khalipe and Mika to babysit, like at the moment, like I can do any character through difficulty 7 or 8 on, tier 12, and then deep trauma it to 13, get 150 save value. But if these guys can creep me up into higher difficulties with higher save values or something like that, like, is that then more valuable to my account than having a character for a specific boss that I do once and then I just don't do it anymore? Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, what are you actually pulling characters for?
Yeah, you make a good point too, because there's something to be said about how can we make the chaos run experience smoother for players who are not, spending, getting every character, what have you. And Khalipe, in your example, is a great character to babysit literally anyone through chaos, because once she's invested enough, you're getting massive AoE so you can clear any format. You're getting massive shields just in case the enemy has like a big one-turn hit. So I think there's also value in saying, hey, what could make my life easier in engaging with chaos, knowing that, and I love grinding chaos, and I know there's some people may love or hate it, but, if I'm spending 95% of my time in chaos, there is a huge quality of life that you can get for yourself if you pick a selector on who's going to give me the most value of going through it. And in this point, Khalipe is a very good one. And I will fully admit, like when I did my video, I was all focused on, okay, what is the boss content? What is like that 5% that I was so focused on that, I didn't put maybe enough value into talking about Khalipe in a way of, hey, she can really make your life easier. But, at the same time, I've been running Yuki, even right now through the seasonal chaos. She doesn't have elemental advantage, but spoiler, she's upgraded enough that she has really good AoE damage, and there are enough annoying AoE style fights in there that I'm like, yeah, Yuki is actually now my preferred character to go through the seasonal chaos. So I think that is probably one other thing I would very strongly, to your point, have players consider is, where is my account now and what is going to give me the most value that I'm not only going to, one, enjoy it. Again, always pick the character that you like their play style, but what would make my life easier? Because chaos, again, is going to be your primary time investment on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis once you start to get in the pits of like, hey, I'm really trying to chase, like this 4 of repose build that so many of us are trying to do. But that's a great example of like, I am going to be running chaos 30, 40, 50 times probably until I get that perfect build for Veronica. And someone like Khalipe could make that a lot easier, because that is a super fun team, by the way. Like, I really do actually love my Khalipe, Mika, Veronica. That was my comfort team for a very long time of going through chaos, because you have everything you need at that point. So it's a very easy team to run through content.
And the one thing I do want to highlight, though, the one, like, I would say drawback to Khalipe in terms of, yes, her and Mika are great babysitters, but you also got to bring up the negative points is, unlike someone like Veronica, Veronica has the unique cards. So Veronica has 2 unique cards, meaning these are not in your duplicate pool when you're looking at your duplicates. However, when we look to, if I can't even find Khalipe, where'd she go? There she is. Khalipe doesn't have any of them. So all of her cards are there to be duplicated. So even though she may make the run easier, she may not make going for the targeted cards that you want to copy easier. So there's all those things to weigh up as well. But yeah, I'm still, unless I need, quote unquote, need Mei Lin for this next boss phase, I'm still locked in on Khalipe myself personally. I just think she's too cool of a character, and I just really like that playstyle. But once again, she's probably not going to have the value of a bunch of these single target damage dealers when we look to the bossing endgame content. Obviously, we've got to wait and see. Maybe they bring some more AoE things, things where you need that extra sustain, but she is more of the specialist tied into chaos runs. But yeah, I still think she is like one of my top options. Plus she has a pet bird, which is too cool, so I can't pass that up. But If we go into the other options, that's where I wanted to have a chat about the vulnerable spamming. So you mentioned Magna and Orlea. Now, for me, I already have Magna. I've actually got 2 dupes. I haven't activated them. I think Magna is a fantastic vulnerable debuffer. And then you mentioned as another option is Orlea. I know there's a lot of big Orlea fans out there showing what she can do with that sort of spam of the vulnerable. My one question is, do you have any teams where these guys are like what you consider best in slot?
That's a challenge right now. Like, you have Beryl, who can really do some absolutely crazy thing with retain, but for me, it feels like Orlea is setting up for a future character that we don't have yet. And we have so many cool retain cards, and I guess Beryl has most of them at this point, but that is the one that I'm really waiting for. And why I'm holding my selector is I just know there's going to be a 5-star coming up at some point that also combos well with her, with the retain mechanic, that is just going to get so much more value out of her and kind of her overall kit. So right now, it's, you can use Beryl, you can use all the activate all the retain cards in your hand, get a bunch of damage triggers, get a bunch of healing, what have you. But it feels like there is just one more thing that we really need to bring that whole team together. But I know there's a lot of people that love Orlea, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of fans out there and a lot of cool content that's being made around her. But I'm really waiting to see which of these first, couple 5-stars maybe play into her kit a little bit more, because I do feel like there's just one piece missing in that regard still. But she has some good buffs. She has some really cool gimmicks that only she can do. So there is definitely a world, if they give us another retain-based character, where Orlea will be the best partner to go with.
Yeah, and that's one where I like to highlight, if you're happy with your roster and you're enjoying everything you have, there's no harm in holding out and waiting to see future characters, because if there's a future character that you really like, and then it's like, oh, this standard banner character or this selector option character pairs perfectly with them, well, then that's where you can go ahead. Oh, now I can make the team that I want to with this new character. So I think that's always something to keep in the back of your mind. If don't feel like you have to use this thing as soon as you get to it, because you could always just wait and see further on how it works. But the other thing I want to talk about, because you mentioned Magna as well, and the big value in Orlea, obviously future value is going to be that retain mechanic. But then it's also, the vulnerable. These are your 2 sort of primary vulnerable debuffers. My one problem with vulnerable in the current state of the game is there's so many things you're trying to pack into a team at the moment where I don't see anyone prioritizing the vulnerable character as being a best in slot for any teams at the moment. It's because you obviously want damage. Then you need draw power, because you want to, I feel like either you're comboing off and doing everything, or you're an upgrade unit and you just play all your upgrades and then you're a bit of support. That's kind of the 2 style of play that we have. There's no one that's just slow. It's you want to be comboing if you're dealing damage. So you want your damage dealer, you want draw power. And then if you're doing those 2 things, then you're either going to want AP, depending on how AP efficient you are, or you want damage amplification. Now, in the damage amplification side, you've either looking at morale stacking or you're looking at vulnerable. I do think most characters at the moment prioritize the morale stacking for damage amplification, but obviously we got things like Haru, who, one big nuke is going to benefit. But the other side of it is, I find myself too often just trying to rely on epiphanies to get vulnerable. And so that's where the vulnerable is in a weird spot. To the same extent, with morale, it's kind of similar as well, where, I've just got this Mika build that I use as my main Mika build, and I got the bird. Now, I got this bird as a conversion at the start of the run, planning on getting rid of it, and then I realized it divined. Now it gives me a permanent 3 morale and an extra draw every turn.
Sick.
So I'm and so you have all these things, and now it's those amplification factors. I feel like you can lean into maybe getting both of them in your team without having a character that does it. So I can run something like Mika with Veronica, and Veronica's obviously just my draw power. And then I can run my Yuki. And then this Yuki build I got, now I've got 2 cards that apply vulnerable AoE and then also give me an AP. So it's now you have all these different ways to get these debuffs. And amplification. So that was a massive fucking ramble to basically say, I just don't know how to slot some of the, like these two premier vulnerable characters into a team. Like, do you have any specific way of doing that, or do you think it's going to be a thing of as we get more characters will start to fill multiple roles, which will allow you to fit specific roles in?
Yeah, it's definitely the double-edged sword that we're currently seeing with the more neutral epiphanies, right? Because I'd even found earlier with Yuki, it's like I got 3 morale on her flashing slash, and I was like, oh, I'll use that, because with Yuki, we're trying to string together multiple attacks in a turn, and if I lead with that, it's just going to be this massive buff for all of her other attacks. And like the mutant card being another one that is, I think that one is too vulnerable to everything off the top of my head, and it's just like, I am now getting such good neutral epiphanies that naturally fit into my build. It almost feels like we want a main damage dealer, a support damage dealer like Veronica or what have you, who just happens to double as the draw engine, and then whoever that draw engine is for the third piece. So I'm very interested in seeing how the neutral epiphanies play out in the long run, because to your point right now, like I have Magna in a team largely because I just don't have another good character to fit into that slot right now from a leveling and save data investment. Like, yeah, it's really cool when I can get 10 stacks of vulnerable on the enemy and then just line up this turn where I'm doing like double anchor shot into ecstasy of violence for, what is that, even 8 hits? 2, 4, yeah, 8 hits. So then I'm getting all the value out of that vulnerable, but like it's a very niche situation, all things considered. So I need to do more, I would say, with my Magna in general and trying to farm her save data, but I really want to try to find a way to get morale and vulnerable both into her kit, which means it's probably going to come from a neutral card, and I just don't know what that looks like yet. But I have a feeling that once I figure out what are the key cards to bring that all together so that she can reliably give you both ends of that buff, I think that's where we'll start to see more people lean into that role for having characters like Magna fill that role. But to your point, I do think it's going to be more we need future characters to kind of expand out on what Magna can provide, right? Or Leia, right? Can provide right now.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is with like, especially like I really like Magna, like because you can build her into a 4-card upgrade deck. So you just play 4 upgrades, and then you pitch everything else. And with the advantage of having the sample, the conversion card, which basically saves you 50 points on your removals, you can even get around to removing the Glacial Fist, and then you just have 4 upgrades, and then you just like have her as a passive character in the background for the rest of the fight that's just revenging with vulnerable, and that kind of stuff's cool. But yeah, I definitely think there's some play to be had with her in terms of the yeah, especially upgrade cards often have morale as one of their options as the universal ones. I've also been finding that I think the amount of a buff you get is dependent on how much cost the card is. That's what sort of that bird showed me is like it seems like the higher the cost of the card, the more you can actually get application through it. And I'm not too sure exactly the way it works because yeah, this one getting like 2 morale and then having the 2 costs with morale and resolve. I'm not sure if I've seen a 1 cost upgrade card have 2 morale, or whether it's like, you know, tied into the fact that it's a seasonal card essentially. So there's all those things to consider that we still don't know 100% everything on. But yeah, I do think that they will have some definite value. But in general, we've sort of rambled on about a few topics there, but I think to do with the selector, once again, I just wanted to highlight that perspective of that I do think these guys, especially for future value, could definitely be up there. And I just wanted to highlight that and let everyone know other perspectives. Now, once again, I think picking your favorite character is definitely a thing. Like Luke mains love Luke, Renoa mains love Renoa. I'm a Hugo main. I love Hugo. I just don't like Kayron. I'm sorry, Kayron mains out there, but that's just me. Even like I even love my Rin. I think she's fantastic as well. But pick what you want. But I think the two like quote unquote safest options would be Veronica and Mei Lin in the current state of the game. Would you agree with that? And then you kind of flex out past that.
I always got to go back to Veronica. And again, I think this is just coming back for me with years in TCG experience. There is just nobody else in the game currently that gives us the sheer amount of draw power. And that means she will always be flexible for future characters who are going to be damage dealers. Like, this is a gacha. We can definitely expect damage dealers to make a key focus of future banners as well. That I just want whoever is the best character, and especially that they're AP neutral as well, to help me go through my deck, find those pieces, and making sure that I'm getting the most out of what my main damage dealer can do. And Veronica just checks all those boxes for me. But yeah, it also can't be stressed enough that Mei Lin's scaling is just out of this world currently, and we'll see what that looks like in the future in terms of future DPS we may get that can rival her.
Yep. And, I'm going to cope that I hit either Mei Lin or Khalipe through my next pity so that I can take the other one for the selector and be happy with it. But the one thing I want to talk about is quickly, like now that we're done with the whole topic of the selector itself, is Mei Lin and the damaging cap. Because you also mentioned Tressa. And another thing that I always go to is something that I was farming before the season and never actually finished, which I am so close to finishing as well. I'm at 126 of 200. But that is like the dimensional cube. And I feel like at somewhere along the line, there's a lot of things in the game where you get big benefits and then there's a cap and there's a defined cap to the benefits. I feel like all the real crazy things we are seeing are from things where they just didn't put a cap on, whether that be because they didn't think it was going to be abusable and they didn't have that foresight into it, or whether they actually wanted it. But I do think, as I click every wrong menu that I'm trying to, but as I think more about it, it's like, how does this, like, and this is just a general conversation, you can have your input. Like, how does stuff like this without a cap impact future character releases? Because something like Mei Lin, like we said, the Tressa combos that you can do, even some of those turn one loot combos are crazy. Because they don't, and then obviously the dimensional cube, because these things do not have a cap, and it's made the baseline expectation of what is a good damage amount so high, how does that impact future characters? Because I think that's one of the big problems with Yuki when she came out. I don't think she's a bad character. I really love her playstyle of searching, getting every one of her cards in my hand, and then going ahead and dumping it for all the damage. But she has a cap because each card can only be played once. Whereas Mei Lin, she does have a cap on how many times she can play cards, but the cap is so high, and then the cap on this extra multiplier is so high that it just makes other characters maybe feel underwhelming because they can't do the cool stuff that these guys can.
Yeah, for me, it really comes back to how they want to approach this topic, because I also recognize they could add a debuff to the boss that says like, hey, after 5 attacks, I don't take damage anymore. That's also a very boring way to get around kind of like the Mei Lin issue, but my number one, or I guess number two worry now, because the E2 importance, which we won't go on that topic, but like that was like my first issue of like, how are they going to continue to balance E2? Because Haru was so insane, and then Yuki was just like a nice quality of life thing, is how those two like ended up. But with Mei Lin and having that higher damage, right, that is now the benchmark that they're going to have for every future character coming out that players have to match up against. So it potentially just puts us into such a, combative spirit of like, oh, this new character can't do this 40k combo, they're not worth pulling on, right? And beyond the conversation of like, obviously it's a gacha, they need to make money, but that's just good for nobody if we have a character that just lands as flat as Yuki almost did, I would argue, just because we have things like Mei Lin, we have things like Trust in the game. The question, this is a deck building game at the end of the day, and you want to reward players for getting these really cool payoffs and feeling like they found a cool combo that can, speak to their play style. But if Mei Lin just does it in, 2 cards effectively, then it cheapens a lot of the drive and wanting to go into chaos to farm those certain builds. Like, I love where Tressa and the Cassius deck is. I think that is the near perfect place, in my opinion, where balancing and where design should be. And then Mei Lin is, the other infinite of just going far too much in that direction. So I'm very curious to see how that impacts future characters that we get, because unfortunately, I do think Mei Lin is going to be the metric that a lot of players and also now the devs have to kind of match up against.
Yeah, and they can't even go, but this character has this element because we've got passion weakness. And it's like, did she really need that on top of everything else? Like, it's actually quite crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see the way it goes, and more so than what the devs do, because like I definitely think, like, especially in these games, like nerfing characters is something that is just not well received. It's not like TCGs. Like I know you come from TCGs, and like when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, like I'd have a $3,000 deck, and then they'd put it all on the ban list, and it's like, well, now that's worth $200 and get fucked, and everyone just kind of moves on and deals with it. But like in these games, you can't really do that. So they do have the balancing toggles of the seasonal equipment. They've got the seasonal, cards as well, like that. But yes. I don't know how they're going to fine tune it when you've got something so powerful off rip. With such combo potential, and not to mention that you've got the fact that she likes basics, which helps you in every other aspect of building a deck around the character. So I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that the reception of all new characters isn't just that it doesn't add up to Mei Lin, and I'm curious if something overtakes Mei Lin, how that's going to leave the rest of it moving forward, because that could be very interesting in terms of power scaling. So I don't know, it's just an interesting conversation. There's no like right answer to it, but it's just something very interesting to see moving forward with the current state of Mei Lin. And now I think I'm just going to take it from my selector now that I talk about it more. I think I've just walked myself into it, But yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through. Do you have any other things you want to touch on in the game? Anything that you're thinking about? Any topic?
No, like you touched on just briefly there for a moment, but like the biggest thing for me is, and what I get most excited about, again, coming from a TCG background, being someone who just really loves deck building, the value that they can bring through new seasonal cards and new play styles that can open up, I think is where this game can really shine. So that's, for me personally, that's like the number one thing I'm looking forward to. Like, not that I want to rush through what they already have planned for like the next couple updates, but like I'm super excited for the next season just to see what new neutral cards that we're going to get, because there's always the option, like the case that I always go back to, right, is Dimensional Cube. Dimensional Cube is a insanely powerful gear that, yes, players do have to spend time unlocking it by going through Blue Pot 30, but right now, only Nia can really get the most value out of it. There's a couple other neutrals that like you can get there, or you can use like Nyx through the Battle Pass that still gives you a little bit of damage. But I really want to see other neutral cards that can give us the amount of filtering to then open up more team building options beyond just Nia to say, hey, now Dimensional Cube can be good on any team. And now here's the neutrals that you can go farm to really get the most out of it. So again, for me, I think like where they're going and where I really want to see the game get balanced around is Dimensional Cube and future cards. And then, yeah, Ecstasy of Violence is, okay, small quick note. I have been putting off Judas 10 for so long because like everybody hates that fight, and I just got this card on Haru with like an okay save, and I was like, okay, I want to go fix the other save data. I want the card that like stops Judas's action so you can like do the full combo. I literally just took Haru's save data with this one card and one shot cleared Judas 10, changing nothing else. Like, this card is insane. Absolutely insane. So, yeah, huge kudos for the devs on this card. I've been having a blast with it.
Yeah, like I think it's been really fun because even with someone like Yuki, it just added like, okay, yeah, single target's her downfall, but at least now you can bridge that gap. She's still not as good at single target damage, which I don't think she should be. She should be AoE focused and then have a single target option if she wants to. But hey, at least now I can punch down those single target enemies that are annoying me and do it quite efficiently. You know what I mean? It's a pretty damn good card.
Yeah, shout out to Ecstasy of Violence. I guess that'd be the last thing I have to say. If you haven't gotten that card yet on one of your damage dealers, just grab it. It's so insane. And then the confiscation as an addition as well is just crazy. It becomes it's a +1, and then it's got like you can get AP, you can get morale, you can. I'm not sure if you can get an extra draw. I haven't seen that, but like you can get some pretty good just standard epiphanies on this thing, which make it even crazier. So that is honestly one of the exciting things, and it's just like the one downside is now I feel like if I'm building a Yuki deck. And I don't see this thing, I just end the run. It's just like, oh well, we'll come back and try again. So, but yeah, I do think that the forbidden cards and the new like just neutral cards, like in terms of support for them, it's
some people may not like it because it feels like this one card's too broken and it's what makes characters now. But I think it's just fun to have different options. And it was like really exciting as you unlock all these different options with it. And once you realized how this thing works, where it just stays at 0 and it also counts down while it's in the deck, it's like, wow, this is just a really fun card now. But that's pretty much everything that we're going to go through in this video. I think I've held you here for long enough. But once again, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on, explaining some of the other options, because like I said, when we all have our own opinions, but I always think it's better to get other people on, share as many opinions as you can, because at the end of the day, it's a game. It's about having fun and having as many options as you can and being able to make the best decision. So yeah, dude, really appreciate you being on. And guys, I will have all of Kozmic's details in the description and the pinned comment. Make sure you go show him some support. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and we'll look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.